and welcome to yet another podcast of the Women's Workshop. I'm Ella, the founder of the Women's Workshop, and this is my co-host and partner, Immi.
Hi, I'm Immi, and let's just have some fun today.
So we've got a few bits to talk about today. So firstly, we want to talk about our upcoming competition, which you will have seen on our Instagram at the women's_workshop. This competition is open to anyone who works in any medium, and we ask you to say what feminism and art means to you. So this can be interpreted however you like, and the winner will be commissioned by us to design our podcast logo. So if anyone's interested, feel free to enter. All you have to do is post it onto Instagram and tag me at the women's_workshop, well, both of us, and at Immi. So please do enter. We're looking forward to seeing all of your amazing creations.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. And don't worry, any medium, like I know that the end product, like you are being commissioned to do a design, but I reckon it'd be cool if we could have a sculpture as our logo. That'd be awesome.
So cool. Yeah. So whatever, like literally, I don't even know, even if there's a medium I can't think of right now, like performance, that would be cool. If you could do a performance logo, that would be great. So anything you can think of, anything you work in, go for it. So next week, we've got a really exciting interview with Zoe, who, do you want to say a bit about her, Immi, as you know her better than I do?
Zoe, asset creative, a fantastic photographer who I've known for donkey's years, was my best friend for ages, best friend in Leeds for ages, just love her to bits, fantastic photographer, has worked in clubs, has worked as boudoir photography, is starting to go into more conceptual photography, fantastic person, love her to bits, though she did once tell me I had a punchable face, so, you know.
What defines a punchable face?
I don't know, but expect that podcast to be a lot of me and Zoe ripping into each other, but we'll still be friends by the end of it.
Well, I definitely want to add that as a question. What defines a punchable face? But she's also genuinely just a lovely person, Zoe. So we're very excited to introduce her. Lastly, we have an Instagram Live, our first one, coming up on the 20th of April, which is today. So it's at 6:30 tonight. Please do come and listen. It's a Q&A.
6:30 UK time.
6:30 UK time, yes. We're aware that we have listeners and followers from loads of different countries. So at 6:30 UK time, it's going to be a Q&A. We just want to find out what you want from the Women's Workshop, your ideas, and really involve all of us.
Yeah, rather than us being asked questions, we'll be asking you questions, and you'll be providing the answer, like a reverse Q&A.
Exactly, yes. Oh yeah, I didn't think of it like that. So yeah, if you want to come along, it'd be great to hear all of your ideas. And yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing you all there. Unless we've got any further announcements, which I don't believe we do, we're going to dive into an interview with Dominika. Do you want to say a bit about her, Immi?
Yeah, Dominika, I'm just going to pull the curtain back a little bit. We've actually already done the interview. You'll be able to tell YouTube because our lightings will be slightly different. But Dominika is a fantastic artist, got such a cool story, currently based in Poland, but she's worked in Munich, in Germany, and in New York as well. She doesn't have one medium, she's got every medium. She does it all.
She's the coolest person I have ever spoken to. Honestly, there are so many parts of the interview where there's just like gold quotes. Like when she is a famous artist, we're going to listen back to this podcast and be like, oh my fucking God, we spoke to Dominika. And I feel like it will just be Dominika, you know, one name, because she'll be that well known that it will just be the first name.
That, and lots of people are ignorant and can't pronounce names that aren't English.
Yes, that's very true. Well, the English sucks, so even though I am English, sadly. But anyway, it's an amazing interview. She's an amazing person and a very talented artist. So we hope you enjoy this interview, and
let's dive in.
Hi, Dominika. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Ella. So happy to be here.
Oh, good. How have you been doing during lockdown? Or I don't know, just tell us a bit about where you are at the moment.
So I'm in Warsaw, Poland at the moment, which is It's been like an on and off lockdown, like it hasn't been as bad as like a year ago in March where everything shut down, but it constantly, like, they shut some stuff down and they reopen it, and you basically never know where you're at. So yeah, I mean, I've been working from home, so it's fine, and just like seeing my closest friends on and off. So like nothing crazy, but it's been pretty good, I would say, because like even though the world is going crazy, I'm like trying to look at the positive and like just, okay, this is my time to focus on my stuff. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's very, very important we stay positive in these like weird times.
I feel like I go through phases of being really, really positive. Like I'll wake up and be like, "You're alive, the sun is shining, everything's fine." And then other days I'll wake up and I'll be like, "Why? Well, like, why is this still happening?"
Yeah.
But I feel like that's just life in general, so it's fine. But yeah, I think COVID's been quite similar over here as well. We've just literally been constantly in and out of lockdowns and.
Right, let's get into it proper. First, let's tell us a little bit about you and how you got started in art.
Oh my god, that's a tough question and a long story. So basically, I've always wanted to be an artist. Well, when I was growing up, I had like 3 life goals, like 3 dreams. Professional. I wanted to be an artist, or a flight attendant, or work at McDonald's because I could get all the toys, you know?
Of course.
Yeah. But the other 2 didn't quite work out. Well, the flight attendant almost did, but then COVID happened, so that's another story. But I was basically always drawing and like creating things, and like middle school through high school, I got really into fashion and like started making my own clothes, and then I had to choose where to go to college and all that stuff, and I had this dream of moving to New York, so I did. I went to Parsons for my BFA, and I majored in fashion design.
Oh my god, you're officially like the coolest person I've ever met.
I mean, I've been like all over the place, but like there, as I was doing fashion design, I started getting interested in wearable tech and virtual reality and like all the techie stuff and like digital design, because like before I went to Parsons, I knew 0 digital tools, like no Photoshop, no Illustrator, nothing. So it was all through like experimentation, figuring things out, and like I think my sophomore year I got really mad at my friend, and I just started like painting all over his picture in Photoshop, and that turned into a fabric print, and out of that I got like this huge collection of like creating different fabric prints and like using that method of like painting over pictures to create surface designs. And that just kind of like snowballed into other things. But yeah, and for my senior thesis I did a wearable tech collection, and like my senior year we had a collaboration with Intel.
Have you heard of Iris Van Herpen?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I absolutely love her. Have you heard of her, Immi?
No.
She's a fashion designer, and she does like 3D drawings as dresses and like these crazy, like, you could probably describe it better than me, but I have looked into her, and she does like dresses that are like they move like as you wear them and things. And there was this one exhibition fashion show she did where it was all based on like the element of water. So she created all these dresses that like were sort of kinetic mechanism or something that moved. And she also had an underwater orchestra who played in massive tanks on the side of the catwalk underwater.
Yeah, she's insanely cool. But the problem was that she's based in she's in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And I was in New York, So that didn't quite connect to this. But like, I was actually thinking of applying to work at her studio, but somehow that never happened. I don't know why. But like, then I started doing other things. And like, I worked for 2 small designers in New York. And then it was like, okay, so what are you gonna do? Are you gonna continue going to school, to get a master's, or are you gonna go back to Europe and try to do things here? And like, I got into school, but I was like, that makes no sense, because like in 2 years time I'm gonna be in the exact same situation with the student visa, where you have to get sponsored or whatever. And I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna go back and see what happens. And then I worked in Germany for like 6-7 months as a 3D designer, which was an interesting experience. And then I moved back to Warsaw and like traveled. Sorry, you can cut that out. And traveled for a little bit, and yeah, just started diving deeper into the art side of things, but also like trying to keep the design side as well. And like, I've been really wanting to combine the two, like combine the art with design, because they seem very separate, and it really bothers me sometimes how people approach design as this disposable thing instead of treating it as art, which it is in a way. It's just a different type of art.
What do you think would you say you have like an aesthetic, or like within your art, like a main aesthetic that you follow, or is it all just however you're feeling at the time?
I think I do, but it's like, it's hard to describe it in words, but there's always like crazy shapes and crazy colors. There's always lots of colors, which
I get a very like software gore sort of vibe.
Yeah, a little bit. But so I think it like goes back to how I don't know why, but I guess that's a good thing, but like it all connects for me. So from like my sketchbooks in college, like I was creating all those crazy collages, and then was drawing on top of that, like tracing that to get shapes, and 3D modeling to get more shapes, and just like combining the two. So it was always like that like gamified, like kind of futuristic and sci-fi, but also not entirely. So it's like, it's hard to give it words.
I think you described it really well. I get, whenever I see your work, there's this film I watched called Sucker Punch. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a really weird film, basically about this girl who is in a mental institution. And oh my god, I'm sorry, like this goes somewhere. And half the film is like, it'll be like totally, well, normal, like she's in the mental institution living the life and everything, and then all of a sudden it'll go into like video game form, and like it's like she's in a video game and she'll be like fighting these like CGI graphic creatures and stuff. And yeah, I get a very like video gamey like vibes from you. I feel like you'd be so good at designing a video game.
I love video games, but so I'm not really into like playing all the new games that are coming out. I really love vintage arcade games. I even have a little Atari, and like sometimes I just like play Space Invaders on it. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it so much. And like when I was a kid, I had a PS1, and I used to play Spyro all the time. Like the little dragon, little purple dragon. That was my favorite, and I'm actually pretty sure I still have that somewhere, and it still works. I've been meaning to like dig that up. But
I remember I had an illegal copy of Spyro, and it was broken, so all of the dragons were speaking Spanish, and I couldn't understand a word of it.
That's so funny. So mine was all in English, and like I understood like maybe a quarter of what they were saying, and it was just like, I mean, I've been fluent in English since I was 15, but that was like before that. I was just like playing, but not really knowing what's going on, but still having fun. So just like, riding along with it.
That's all that matters.
When I was about, I think I was about 6, and I was watching Toy Story, and like my mum, it was like proper on VHS back then on video, and my mum like put the video in and then like, gone, had her evening, whatever, like in the living room. And she came back in like half an hour later, and I was watching Toy Story in Greek, and obviously I had no idea what was going on, but she asked me like, she was like, oh my God, do you want me to change it back to English? And I was like, no, I like watching it in Greek, leave me be. So I just watched the whole of Toy Story in Greek. And it was quite a different experience to watch it in English, but I think it was slightly better.
Yeah, I mean, you can honestly learn languages that way if you're a kid. It's really amazing.
Well, I think that's why so many other countries learn English, like more than we learn other languages, because like of American culture and like English media and all that sort of stuff. But I got really into this Korean drama when I was about 15, and I cannot speak Korean, but like I know quite a lot of Korean words now because I watched it about 5 times, and I was so invested in it. And now I can say I love you, I hate you, and oi. So going pretty well.
Yeah, that's how I learned Japanese.
You can speak Japanese?
What? Wait, what?
Oh, I can speak lines from anime. And I know what they mean.
Have a conversation that way, in a way.
Yeah, I can. I worked in a Japanese restaurant for a bit, and I could like call the chef out because I could understand that he was giving me abuse.
Oh my God.
In Japanese, and I just went. I know what that word means,
Oh, this is why you should always learn the swear words of every language first. Like in Spanish, I know all the really bad swear words. So if someone says something, like, I know what they're saying.
Yeah. I learned how to swear in sign language.
Oh, I don't. Okay, show us one. I want to know.
Okay, so this is fuck off.
Wait. Like that?
All in one motion. Yeah.
Wait, you have a fist, and the other one is open.
Fist, and then it's. Yeah, that's fuck off. And then that is fuck you, fuck all of you.
Oh my God, I love that. That's so dramatic as well.
Yeah.
Apparently in Greece, if you do this, I don't know if this is true, my dad told me this, so it might be a dad fact, but like if you do this, it means go to hell instead of like stop or hi or whatever.
Well, it's like in Italy, that is an insult.
The tooth thing.
No, biting your thumb.
Oh, there's also another thumb thing as well, though, isn't there? Like if you do that, isn't that like a?
Oh, it's that.
Something.
Oh, yeah.
It's that from the chin.
Oh yeah. I can't imagine.
This is going to be great for audio listeners.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know. We're gonna have to do like you're gonna have to insert like Siri instructions, like person flicking tooth with thumb. Anyway, should we circle back to the art topics? This is art, Dominika. Like this is how casual it is.
I love it. It's great.
So our next question is: what is the Polish art scene like?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I cut out that question. I honestly don't know. I live on the internet, honestly, which I guess fits in with my whole video game vibe.
What about New York then? Was it a bit less pretentious there? Or was it still pretty pretentious?
I feel like it was more open. But, I went to design school, so I wasn't really doing like fine arts in New York. That transition, let's say, happened recently. But always kind of been there. It's like that weird combo with me for everything. It's just like mixing things together.
That's good though, mixing things together that shouldn't be together or you haven't thought of always end up with like things that were more interesting than they were to begin with, if that makes sense.
I agree with that completely. That's how I came up with the idea of cooking bacon in lemonade.
Ooh.
That is a very bold choice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
because lemonade is sweet, and I remember my friend in New York getting crepes with Nutella and bacon.
That's interesting.
Well, like maple syrup and bacon is like classic, isn't it? And that's really, really good. I accidentally almost cooked an omelette in lime cordial the other day, but that was completely unintentional because I thought it was olive oil.
Oh, that would have burned.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was thinking, like, I put it into the pan. I was like, this doesn't look like the consistency of oil. But I was like, maybe it's just a bit runnier than usual. But no, it was lime cordial. So this is me living at home with my parents. Like, I'm moving out in 2 weeks and I have no idea how I'm going to keep myself alive.
You're going to die.
I am going to die. You'll have to send me, like, food packages to keep me alive because I'm incapable.
It's fine. I mean... Okay, so when I moved to Munich, I had a gas stove, and I'm really scared of gas for some reason because we have an electric stove here, and in New York I also had an electric stove, and I couldn't figure out how to turn it on, and like I would always, and like the knobs didn't have the markings which one is which.
Oh no!
And I would like turn it on and like, you know, try to light it, but nothing was happening, and it was smelling like gas. So every time I would panic and just like turn it off and like open the windows. And then I was FaceTiming someone. No, I was FaceTiming the girl that I was renting the apartment from, and she was like, "You're just using the wrong burner." I was like, "Wait, what? What do you mean?" And I was like, "Yeah, like you're turning on the back one, not the front one."
Oh, well, if they don't have the markings there, that's not your fault.
Exactly. And like, that was
no, it's just a wild guess. You just have to put the lighter to all of them and hope your hand doesn't burn off.
What I would have done is I would have just turned all of the knobs on and then ignited them all and then turned them off one by one to figure out where they were.
See, I was
a bit dangerous.
Really scared of gas to do that. It's like,
yeah.
Gas freaks me out. And like, I had a gas radiator, like gas heater there, and in the winter I would always turn it all the way down. Like I would always just turn it off. So whenever I came back home from work, I would have to like turn it back on and like sit in my jacket because it was too cold.
I want some melted half of our microwave at one of our student houses because like I cooked for the first time ever because like I never cook. I'm like a noodle person who just pours hot water onto things and hope that you can eat them, and I left the stove on, and then I came down, I'd accidentally melted half of the microwave, so like for the rest of the year we could only put the microwave up to 1 minute because past 1 minute it was melted.
Oh my god.
But it did still work apart from half of it.
Okay, now I'm a little bit worried about you moving to the world. Like, before I was like, no, you can do this, but
maybe not.
Melt the microwave.
Circling back to art, what mediums do you actually work in? Like,
oh my god, a little bit of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, right now, so what you've mostly seen is my ongoing project, which I started because basically I was just getting frustrated with myself, and I was like constantly getting into my head that I'm not creating anything, or like, why are you thinking instead of doing? And just, I was like, okay, you need like a solid project that you're gonna do something creative, something visual. It doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to have like any meaning attached to it, no pressure, just something. Create something every single day and post it, so there's some accountability that goes with it. So that's what I've been doing for 135 days, I think now. So
oh my god,
well done.
Thanks. I'm really proud of myself, and like every day I'm just like, oh my god, I have to do this, but then I just do it and it's fine.
How many days are you gonna do it for?
The whole year, 365.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I'm using mostly, well, the final edit is in Photoshop, but I mix some pictures into it, some digital drawings that I do in VR. So it's not really drawings, but it's not really 3D modeling either. It's like virtual drawings that are three-dimensional. There's not a word for it.
Somewhere in between.
Yeah, exactly. And I just like take screenshots of them. It's like, well, sometimes I export them and manipulate them a little bit, but mostly I just take screenshots of them and just like layer the images on top and just see what happens. So there's that. I draw on my iPad a little bit, and then there was this project that I recently done that was part of an art residency that I was in from January, and we actually just finished like 2 weeks ago, I think. We created this AR installation that was inspired by a dream world, and it's like bring the dream world into the reality, and highlighting that just because something is not there just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not there. Basically playing with the idea of perception and objective versus subjective reality, which was drawn in VR, the individual elements. Then I printed them all out. Like, I just printed out the screenshots because I had to figure out how to arrange the installation. And I pasted them onto glasses, and I was like literally working on my table, just like trying to like shuffle it all up and like figure out how the composition is gonna look like. And then going back into 3D modeling and like arranging it all together so it could be augmented reality. Yeah, it was like a lot of steps, just like going from digital to real to back to digital. But it's done. And then the artist I was working with, she's a photographer. She's also really amazing. Her name is Isra, and she's based in Oman. But she did a whole photo shoot with it. So she had a model, and the model was interacting with the installation itself. So that's mostly the digital stuff that I do. And I play around with VR as well. So, I mean, that was awesome with the drawings, but I also want to create some experiences, but still into figuring it out and learning it all. So haven't really done that much there yet, but I will. And then on the more real side, I make clothes because, well, lots of training in that, so can't really escape it, and it's fun. I really love it. I paint a little bit. Well, I haven't really painted since like freshman year of college, but I've been like slowly getting myself back into it, and just like, again, no pressure, just like see how you feel about it and just try, experiment with things, see how it goes. I've been doing a little bit of embroidery, but mostly with clothes, so I'm just like, I really want to step away from like an art object is something you can't touch or you can't use. Like I mentioned before, like the idea of merging design with art. It's like, I want both all at the same time. And if there's a digital layer on top of the real thing, that's even better. Oh, and there's this new project that I'm working on, which I really love, but it also freaks the shit out of me because I've never done that before. I wrote a few poems, so it's like a little poem series, and I created little videos that go with it, with the poems that like kind of illustrate the poems, but like in a very abstract way, and mostly like just evoking the feelings that you can like observe in the poems. And I got those by feeding an AI software to like different images that are like somewhat related to the poems, but not necessarily, and like, you know, all in that realm. and I got those really beautiful videos out of it. And I think I'm gonna turn that into an experience kind of a thing / installation. I don't know yet.
Oh my god, don't do it. That sounds absolutely amazing.
That does sound cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, you are honestly like one of the coolest people I've ever met. Like, I'm just listening to you talk and I'm like, oh my goodness, you've accomplished so much in life.
It does not feel like it sometimes, but yeah.
No, I love how
do a lot. I do a lot.
Yeah, but I love that. I love how you've dabbled in everything. Like, you haven't just stuck to one thing. And I think it's so much more exciting doing things like that as well, because even if you do something that you've never done before and you do it really like badly, or it's just like nice to get out of your comfort zone and do something that is completely different to what you would normally do. But no, definitely do that as an installation, because I would pay to go to that.
That sounds really cool. Like, I did an installation when I was in uni. It was just literally, I tricked people into a theatre. There was no act on, and I just had speakers underneath people's chairs, and I just blasted white noise into their arse.
Okay.
And it made people very, very ill. But like, oh yeah, there's certain frequencies here within white noise which like resonate with the human body and make people throw up.
Oh my god. I had no idea.
It's kind of sick. It's like a human experiment / installation.
But you could change that around with the poems and make it something a bit more pleasant.
Yeah.
Rather than something utterly horrific.
I was actually thinking about because like I do want to keep the poems in the installation, but I'm not sure about the form. So I was thinking of maybe I could read them. I don't know, but because like I've never done anything with sound, and I've been so drawn to it recently. But at the same time, I'm not a musician.
There's a thing called swinging speakers, where you put speakers on pendulums, 4 of them, and then you set them going on different rates. So you end up with a Doppler effect on your own voice. So you could do something like that.
That's a good idea. I'm going to write it down and I'll explore that.
Sorry, I'm so excited for like this project. I've got an idea. So you could have it like walking into a room, and you could have something maybe like projected on the walls, and then you could have like little sort of like spots throughout the room, like little cubby holes where people have to like bend down and like listen to like the whispers, which are your poems. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, because I was actually thinking of like not reading them like normally, but just like whispering and seeing what happens, because that would really fit in with the poems and like the whole idea behind it, because like it's about a fantasy. It's about a fantasy that you have at like 3 a.m. or just like thinking that someone's there with you, but then no one's there. So
exactly, yeah, I think the idea, I really like exhibitions or installations that use sound, because I feel like it's something you don't always expect to see, like in a sort of fine art or like an art setting, and I feel like it's always a little bit different. So you should definitely do that. I think sound would be a good thing to explore. Yeah,
I really love when you walk into an exhibition and you can just get yourself lost in it. You forget about the entire world that's around, and you're just there with the art. I remember there was this one exhibition at PS1 at MoMA in New York. I think it was Mike Kelly, but there was this one room where it was his older work, because he's mostly known for the plushies and for the toys, but it was his like really early work that was like, I think it was like Superman World or something, but there were this like, oh, how do I describe those? Like glass domes with little cities in it, and there was like music going, and like
that's like from
colors and stuff. It was so cool. Like I remember it to this day. It was so immersive.
I don't remember which comic book that's in.
Yeah.
It is a Superman one, and I think Brainiac like kidnaps cities and puts them in little snow globes.
Yeah.
I love
that's kind of what it was. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I love exhibitions that take you into like little worlds. Like I love little places you can kind of explore and go into. I went to an exhibition, oh, I'm gonna butcher the name because it was quite a while ago, but I think they were called the Kabakovs, and they were like these duo Russian artists. And it was a proper experience. Like you walked into the exhibition and there were loads of little sections. And I remember this one room being filled with these tiny little tight ropes that went across the room. And there were all these tiny little like paper men walking across all the tight ropes. And then one of the other rooms was called like the Train to Nowhere or something. And there was just a massive train like going through the room. But like I love stuff like that where it completely takes you, like you don't feel like you're in an exhibition room anymore. Like as you said, it feels more of an experience than just staring at a picture. Not that there's anything wrong with staring at a picture, but you know what, it makes it more immersive.
Like as I said, it's like transporting you to a whole different world, and I think that's what's most powerful about art. But like also part of it is design, because you have to design it in a certain way so that it actually works. And like it can be so powerful because you get to experience things you wouldn't normally experience. You can put yourself in situations that you wouldn't necessarily consider before because they just don't apply to you because of whatever circumstances. They're just not part of your regular experience. So yeah, I think it's super important that it's like a little more than just slapping a picture on the wall. But like you said, there's nothing wrong with having a painting or a picture or anything visual on the wall. That can be powerful too. But I think the setting it's in is equally as important.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I agree. Well, that's why like curation is such a big thing, because it's the way something's displayed. Like, or being we had this person come in to talk to us when we were at uni about being an exhibition manager, which sounded like the coolest job because you get to like help design the sets for like all the exhibitions. So she was talking about working on the Tim Walker exhibition at the V&A, and how like he wanted like loads of like massive props hung from the ceiling and everything, and like curating it so it looks exactly how like the artist envisioned. But yeah, I think bringing stuff to life like that, like as you said, anything can be kind of captivating and transport you, even if it is like 2D. It's about how it's displayed.
Yeah. One of my favorite artists, I've forgotten their name, they're Japanese, but one of their most famous expositions was they took casts of people's like dead people's bones and arranged their skeletons as if they were doing that person's job. So that there was like a builder skeleton that was built in a house.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was all in a dark room, and the only things that were lit up were the bones. It was the creepiest thing I've ever seen.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, that
but it also sounds really beautiful.
yeah.
In like a very creepy way. But yeah.
Sorry, no, go on.
No, you go. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that artist also reminded me of this other artist who I can't remember the name of. It's really going to annoy me. I'll look it up afterwards and we'll put it in our little playlist or post, whatever. But yeah, he does these casts of like real human people, but then he displays them like in the ocean. So I think he does some like off the coast of Mexico or something, and you have to go scuba diving to see them. And he places like full body casts of people like standing at the bottom of the ocean in like circles, or like he'll do a cast of a sofa with like a guy watching TV, and they're just all at the bottom of the ocean. And you have to go, yeah, and you have to go diving down there to go and see them. So it's like literally an exhibition in the sea.
That's
If you don't know that's there, that must scare the absolute crap out of you.
Yeah, I really want to go and see it though. I love like things that are a little bit like creepy.
Right? It's somewhere near Cancun?
Yes, I think so. I think he's got them in a few different places. I think they're not just like, I think he's set like the underwater exhibitions up in quite a few places, but oh, it's really going to annoy me now. Immi, you ask the next question. I'm going to look up what his name is because it's going to bug me.
Okay. Has your style evolved in any like major ways, would you say?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. I think I'm more confident now in exploring the shapes instead of just repeating them. So what I used to do for for the fabric designs, I used to always, like, I would create the initial picture and then I would rely mostly on mirroring it in different ways, and creating the image that way. But now I feel like I've kind of evolved from that, and I'm more free with how I create the visuals than I was before. And also I feel more confident in it. And I feel like it's gotten, when I look at it all together, I can see the progression and like how it's evolving in all very subtle ways. But I can't quite explain like how, in what exact ways, but it's definitely evolved.
Yeah,
like,
you trust in the process a little bit more.
Yeah, just like looking from the very first sketches from school to like now, it's like two different words.
I think, trusting the process is definitely important, because I think sometimes things do need to get bad before they get good. Like if you're making like a picture or a sculpture or photography or whatever you're doing, it always starts off, you're like making it and you're like, what the actual fuck is that? But like if you keep working on it and you figure out what you don't like and what you do like eventually over time it becomes good, or like what you perceive to be good anyway.
Oh yeah. I mean, even my illustrations, like my fashion illustrations, oh my god, the first ones, so bad. So bad. But then I eventually, like, I figured out what works for me the best. And it was the best feeling ever. And, like, I'm still using that style, let's say, in certain things, but it's also kind of evolving. So, yeah, definitely. And also you pick up a lot of fun tricks along the way, because you know like what doesn't quite work, but then you know how to, like, I don't want to say fake things, but how to make things easier for yourself.
Yeah. Or you'll meet somebody who does something in a really interesting way and try and recreate that way. Yeah. I do that all the time with music. I see somebody who tries to write a song backwards, like note for note, and see how it works forwards. It's always awful.
I'm sorry, brief interlude. I found who the artist was. It was really going to bug me. The underwater guy is called Jason DeCaz Taylor.
Okay.
Does that ring a bell? Okay, that probably doesn't mean anything to anyone, but for our many listeners, if you want to look him up, that's who he is. And going back to the questions, what do you actually use to create your artworks, and what technology are you interested in using?
So recently I've gotten really into AR because of the installation. I'm by no means an expert, but I'm having fun, and I think that's the most important thing.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, definitely.
I was trying to turn it, because we built it in Adobe Aero, so like I know all the Adobe apps like back and forth because of how much I've been using them, which is a great application, but the only crux is that when you built it in it, like you kind of have to view it through it, and it's fine. It's, you know, you can download it for free, so you can totally view it. It's just an extra step that the viewer, the audience, has to take to experience the installation. So I was trying to export it so that it could work as a filter or something, and it was a big pain in the ass because of the way I like created the shapes, and there were like things overlapping, and I was just like constantly trying to optimize it. And I was just like, shit, like when you're creating a thing like that later, you need to think about that first, of like actually creating the shapes so they're not ridiculously heavy. But yeah, live and learn. It's still great though. So yeah, it's been augmented reality recently, and like lots of Adobe stuff. But just like with everything, I just jump between the things all the time. So yeah, it's all over the place again.
How did you actually learn how to do all the Adobe software? Did you learn it when you were at Parsons, or?
Yeah, So, but it was, again, all through like experimentation, because we didn't have like a class that was, oh, this is the class where you learn Photoshop. No, it was like, actually I remember the first time we had to use it, we had to create this landscape that was part hand-drawn and part drawn in Illustrator. So we're like literally sitting in class and figuring out how that thing works. And like, of course, the professor would give us some pointers and like how, like, what are the important things and what to keep in mind, etc. But ultimately, you had to figure out the whole workflow for yourself. And I still have that somewhere. I would just have to dig it up. But yeah, and from there, we were just using it for different things in different projects. So you just kind of learn it by default.
Do you have a favorite tool in Adobe?
I think it's gonna be Photoshop and After Effects. I love After Effects. I don't know it that well. I'm still learning, but it's fun. Oh my god, there's so many things you can do. And actually, funny enough, like I started learning After Effects a little more when I was working on a project with my friend from school. She's a dancer and a choreographer, and she was working on a performance, and she wanted like, oh my god, I don't even remember how we started. She was just like looking for collaborators, and I was like, yeah, I totally want to collaborate. I have no idea what we're gonna do, but let's do it. And she started just sending me videos from the rehearsals, and I just started manipulating them and like playing with the colors. And then in the end, she ended up projecting those videos that I was sending her into the space, to create ambience and change how the light looked in the space during the performance. It was also really cool. I never got to see the performance because I was here and she was in New York. It was 2 years ago now. But it was, oh my god, it was such a great project to work on, and the whole performance was so beautiful. It's actually up on my website that you can see. I need to rearrange my website, but it's under the video stuff.
How much video stuff have you done? Are you interested in sort of going down that route?
Not that much, but yeah, I'm very much interested in exploring it more. Even not so much as like the main thing, but as part of other things. Because like working on that project with Ella, like funny enough, her name is also Ella.
Good name.
Yeah, it is a good name. We used the projector and the video to change how everything looked in the space, because like there were two, and one was projecting on the wall so you could see the actual video, and the other one was kind of projecting like upwards, but not straight on the ceiling, but like kind of into the space, so you couldn't quite see what the actual video was, but you could still see the light changes. So many things you can do.
Yeah, I love how much you've just experimented with everything. Like, I feel like there's very few things, it sounds like. Is there anything like you haven't experimented with yet that you want to?
Yes, music.
Oh, of course. Well, you've come to the right place because Immi's a musician, so.
Yeah. Master's degree in music, so.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Not to brag or anything, Immi.
No, it only cost me $7.5 grand,
Well, mine cost me $30.
I'm not gonna tell you how much my fashion design degree set me back. It's like, ooh.
Oh my god, I know. Well, I was looking at this after I was coming to the end of my course. I was looking at this fashion photography and styling course in Milan in Italy, and I was like, oh my god, I would be in Italy, and you get to do like a whole year out like in the industry as well. And then I looked at how much it cost. It was for 1 year, right? Only 1 year, and you go out like spend 6 months in the fashion industry, 6 months being like studying and everything. And I had a call with the administrator of the course, and she was like, okay, yeah, so it's £35,000 for a year. And I was like, for 1 year, and then I was like, oh, okay. Are there any loans I can get? No, not a single loan. You have to pay £35,000 that I just have, sitting in my piggy bank in my room.
It's like, yeah, I totally have that money.
Yeah, so I had to play along for the rest of the phone call. Like, oh my god, yeah, I'm so interested. £35,000. Yeah, no worries. I'll just dip into my non-existent savings. So yeah, after the phone call, my dreams were crushed because it did look amazing, but it's obviously designed for rich people.
Yeah, there's a lot of gatekeeping in that sense. Because, like, oh my god, going to Parsons was not easy. Like, my parents are not rich. So it was like they had to. So I couldn't get a loan in the US because you have to have like a co-signer that like worked and lived there for a certain amount of years, and they have to have like really good credit and like all those like lots of crazy shit. And I couldn't get my own loan in Poland because in Poland you have universities for free, even though they're not that great. Like, well, some of them are good, but like it's just like, maybe cut that part out. I don't know. I should be shitting on Polish education. It's not that great. Anyway, I could not get a student loan in Poland, and plus, even if I could, it would not be enough to pay for Parsons. So like, my parents had to get like a special loan, like almost like a mortgage, so I could go there. And I did, but like, I worked 2 jobs. Well, I worked the entire time I was there. Like, I did school for full time, and on top of that, I lucked out and like was busting my ass off. But I was working at the dorms as a resident advisor. So I got to live on campus for free, and they also paid me. But it came with a lot of responsibilities,
Yeah.
So, and I worked in IT when I was at Parsons. So it was just like juggling a billion things. And I was just like, honestly, how I did that, I have absolutely no idea, but I did it.
You telling me that's made me so glad that I never went through with my Columbia application.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, and I'm so grateful for it. And I really want to move back to New York, but like, oh my god, when going there, I had absolutely no idea what the hell I was getting myself into because it was empty.
Yeah,
I had fun the entire way, but I was also really tired.
American universities are crazy expensive. I mean, to be fair, English universities, you still have to pay $9,000 a year, which is quite a lot. But you get loans.
Yeah, but that's like nothing compared to American universities.
And they're quite chilled as well. Like, you don't have to pay it back until you earn over like 24,000, and then after 30 years, if you haven't got any money, you don't have to pay it back. So
yeah, if you get a loan in the US, you have to like start paying it back right away.
Oh my god, really? I didn't know that. God, yeah, no.
Especially their private loans. I don't know about, because the government has some loans as well, but you have to qualify for them, and there's like some other crazy shit that goes with that. But yeah, the private ones, you have to like start paying pretty much right away, or maybe there's like a tiny grace period, but it's like a few months or something.
Yeah. Was it good though? Would you say it was worth it? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some bad experiences along the way, because like, of course. Mm-hmm. But yeah, overall, it was definitely worth it, because like, I learned so much, and if it wasn't for that, like, I don't know if I would be doing the stuff that I'm doing right now, like, yeah. So like, I learned so many things, like, about art and about myself, most of all, and like pushed myself to do different things and try different things, and mostly the experimentation thing. That's where it all came from. So yeah, it was definitely worth it.
Have you experienced any misogyny or prejudice in the art world?
I can't say much about the art word, but I can definitely talk about school because I totally have. Oh my god. So, my senior year, I was working on a wearable tech collection, and my best friend was also working on a wearable tech collection. My best friend is a man. So, and at one point, my senior teacher was like, "Oh, you should not be doing that because like he's doing it already. Like, why are you guys are doing the same thing?" I was like, "What? Like, yeah, like why are you like you should do something else. You shouldn't do wearable tech." I was like, "But our concepts are totally different. We're literally just using the same technology, and not in terms of like the exact same thing, as in we're making clothes that have built-in computer chips. They're doing totally different things. No, you should just try something else." And like they connected him with a bunch of different resources, and like they got him in touch with the head of the design technology department for masters, because like they're doing things like that there. Nothing for me. And I was like, great. So, fun times.
Oh my god, what a fucking
Jesus.
arsehole. You know
Yeah.
what? You are so gonna show them up though, because you're gonna be like this amazing, famous
Oh yeah, and totally.
artist. And you're gonna go back and be like, yeah, I had no fucking help with from these dickheads.
I mean, honestly, like towards the end of the year, the same professor was like, oh, also the professor was male, because in case that wasn't clear.
What a shock.
Right? He was like, yeah, you're gonna do amazing things, and I see like bright future ahead of you, and like you totally should like keep doing this, and like you're so amazing. You've always been so amazing from the beginning. I was like, huh? I mean, thanks, but what?
Something you said feels like a lie.
Yeah, no, I hate people like that. I hate people who are like just not nice to you for the whole duration of your stay, wherever you are, school, university, wherever. And then at the end they're like, oh my god, yeah, I really hope, good things happen for you. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah, I was like, I'm glad I'm not gonna see you again.
Like, I feel like it's because people want to feel like they're good people sometimes, so they feel like they have to say things to make themselves feel better. It's like, no, you're just a dick and you don't want to admit it.
I mean, yeah. It's like, I don't want to say that professor was a bad person, but like my experience was not the best. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
In case he resurfaces sometime.
But you made it anyway. You made it all the way to New York. Like, you've already showed him, and I'm sure you're gonna like show him some more. So fuck him. If you're listening, you are not welcome on this podcast. Okay, so what are your plans for the future at the moment in terms of your artwork?
Continue making stuff, most of all. But I've been looking at a lot of different residencies and open calls, and I need to start applying to those because like you gotta get your stuff out there. And I actually saw this really amazing thing recently. It was this older lady who's an artist, and I was like scrolling through TikTok, just like mindlessly procrastinating on my shit. And she was talking about like, you can totally make it as an artist, and like don't get discouraged about getting rejections for open calls, because like every time I try to apply something, I get into my head, it's like, oh, does this feel right? Does it sound right? And like whatever, it's like, and eventually I just end up applying to very little of them. And she was like, change your way of thinking. Think about it, not how many you can get. It's like, aim for getting 100 rejections. And once you have 100 rejections, get some more. And just like continue getting more and more and more. Like, and eventually you'll stop worrying about whether the call is right, like 100% or no. Like, you're just gonna be putting your work out there, and that's the most important things. And eventually it's going to be harder and harder to get those rejections. And also you don't take it as personally, because like you shouldn't. Like sometimes, I mean, it's luck and it's chance of like whether or not your work is gonna fit in with the call or with what the curator has in mind. So don't worry about that. Just like get it out there. The right people are gonna see it. You know your stuff is good, so why freak yourself out about it? Try to get as many rejections as you can. So that's my goal.
In this next segment, our artist offers up a person that inspires their art and that they love the artwork of. So, Dominika, who have you picked to go into the Hall of Fame?
Okay. Oh my. All right. So I think my favorite at the moment is Sam Cannon. She's an artist based in, I want to say New York, but I'm not 100% sure. But she's a digital artist, and she's recently been doing this really amazing project called Getting into 3D. So she's been working a lot with video and 3D and stuff like that, and it's basically her transforming herself into a 3D form, into a 3D object. And she talks in the project about a lot of the female form and how it's represented in 3D modeling. It's super interesting. It's a whole performance going on her Instagram page right now. Oh my god, so good. You should definitely check it out. But I also love, well, my friend Azza Sultan. Her work is absolutely incredible. She's an artist. She's also based in New York, because I have a lot of friends in New York. But she explores her cultural heritage in her works, and they're all very well. I just love her master's thesis. She had a show last fall in New York at a gallery, and she like combined things from her childhood, and there were like video pieces, there were hand-stitched paintings, and also this one bit where she had different spices and like spice mixes created in like little pouches, so you could like actually smell it and experience it. So it was very multi-sensory. I absolutely loved it. And her paintings, oh my god, her paintings are just out of this world. She had a series. She recently was working on this series with birds from Malaysian folklore, and now she's working on another painting, and oh my god, like she says she can't paint hands, but like the hands she paints look more real. They're mine. Like my actual hands. It's insane. So I think she would be great to have in the Hall of Fame as well. And there's this other artist who's slightly different. Well, she's a fine artist. She's mostly a painter. Her name is Camilla, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to pronounce her name wrong. I'm so sorry about that. Camilla Angstrom. She's based in LA, and I don't know if you've seen it, but she had this little comic. She called her Husa, and she was exploring the female body in terms of like, she was challenging how the female body is always presented in fashion and in the fashion industry, and how it's always constrained and it has to have like a certain form and it's never fully free. And Husa was the very opposite of that. And she was, you know, loving herself, not like actual like female body shape, but just like I don't want to say she's a blob, but she's like she's very comic-y, and super cute, and it's like very positive. And she also does those like video dances on Instagram that are super cheerful, and oh my god, her works just bring so much joy. So that would also be a really good pick. But I'll let you choose whichever one of the three.
Oh, they all sound amazing. I haven't actually heard of any of them before, but this is one of my favorite parts. I love finding new artists through other artists because I have a very specific taste in artists. Like, I like all the really kind of weird, creepy artists. I mean, I like all sorts of stuff, but yeah, I love the Hall of Fame for that, for finding new people. Who do you think it like has inspired your work the most out of those people you've mentioned? Or all of them?
I don't know if I wouldn't say they inspired my work per se, but more so how I approach my work. Yeah, it's more about the approach and how you treat your art and what kind of things you explore within it, and also like how you see yourself as an artist. I think those were the things that in the ways they inspired me the most, I think, rather than the actual work that I'm making.
Yeah. Inspired by the person, not the product.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think being inspired, especially in the way you approach your work, is so important, because the way you kind of approach your work, or like the mindset you're in, or the themes you're thinking of, very much do influence the outcome. So yeah, I think that's interesting. But I always find like when I'm lacking inspiration, like, I haven't done any art in ages because I have a full-time job at the moment. But whenever I was lacking inspiration and I found like a really cool artist, it would just give me like so much more motivation to do stuff. Like when I see something that's so like beautiful or so like really, really weird, like I love really weird art. Like you know Cindy Sherman?
I don't know, maybe.
She's like a photographer / like a visual photographer, and she does like the craziest stuff. Like she did this one series which I think was called, oh, I really should know, I can't remember, it was called like Pornography or something, and she like arranged all these mannequins with these crazy faces on them, but like they were really graphic images. So she'd do like this string of sausages like going into this mannequin, and like all these sexual scenes but made out of like plastic mannequins, like face masks. Yeah, I'm one of the weird ones. I like all the really weird stuff, but I love like fine art as well. Like I never really appreciated classical art that much before, because I've always been very into all the like modern conceptual stuff, but I do actually love classical art as well. One of my friends, Lucia, she lives in Madrid, and her sister works at the Prado in Madrid, so we got to go on this tour with her, and she's like an art historian, so she was telling us all about like the histories and the stories behind all the pieces. And I think that made classical art so much more interesting to me, because I was always like, well, it's just a really well painted picture, but actually like there's loads of stuff behind it, you know, there's loads of like inspirations, or like things taken from stories, or tiny little motifs which mean something. Like I think you can have art that doesn't mean anything at all, but I do also like art where really little things mean a lot as well.
Yeah, that was always the thing that
in mentioning Cindy Sherman, you've scarred two of our podcast guests in 2 weeks. And also, you've mentioned Lucia, and she's been listening to the podcast, and she's going to be so happy that she's been mentioned.
Oh, we'll have to have her on at some point, actually. Yeah, no, I always bring up these artists who do really good. I mean, to be honest, that Cindy Sherman is one of the tamer ones compared to some of the other ones I've mentioned. I won't mention any of the creepier ones now, but we can talk about them at a later date. So moving on to our topic of the evening, our big question. Dominika, what have you chosen to talk about? What is the topic you're interested in today?
Oh my god. What did I say?
I remember. design and art? I think it was something to do with that.
Yeah, I think it was design and art and combining the real with digital. Yeah, I feel like at the moment they exist very separately for everyone, which is so weird for me because they're so connected, and somehow this idea that digital art is less valuable than actual art. I mean, now that's changing with the whole NFT craze that's been going on, but it still feels very gimmicky in terms of how people approach it. It's like, oh, it's a game, and it's like, oh, you can get all those things, and like, but in actuality it has the same value as stuff that you would see at a gallery or at a museum. Like, it's all museum worthy. So I think that it's something I've been struggling with myself as well, because like I get those thoughts that I'm just like, oh, you like, how do you call this art? You just like messed around in Photoshop for like 10 minutes. Like, how is that valuable? But at the same time it is, because I created it and like I put time and effort and mental space into it, and that's what art is. Like, you put a little bit out of yourself into something else to create something that didn't exist there before. I like well-designed art because like I feel like sometimes I've seen pieces that were just like, what, like, why is it there? Like, I don't want to say that it's less valuable, but sometimes when you see something, you can tell it's very flat and very much on the surface, and then you don't have things that should be more appreciated aren't as appreciated because, for example, like, it was done by a certain person and the other thing was done by another person that's not maybe as wildly popular or well known or anything, and or maybe one was digital or the other one was physical, and it's like, but the digital one actually has more value and thought behind it than the real one. Like, does it make it less valuable? I don't think so. I would, I don't know if any of that makes sense. It's like,
no, it
I
does.
can rant about that for a long time and not make sense at all.
I think sometimes it can be to do with status in the art world as well, in terms of how much something's appreciated or kind of how much effort goes into something. Like, for example, Damien Hirst. I don't know if you like Damien Hirst, because I went through a phase of quite liking Damien Hirst, but actually I kind of think he's just a bit of like a rich arsehole. Just because I feel like I'm using him as an example because I feel like someone like him could create anything. Like, for example, he created a skull made of diamonds. And I don't really feel like that says anything. It might just be a personal thing, but I don't really feel like it spoke to me. I just felt like it was sort of like a display of wealth, but he could make anything. He could crumple up a piece of paper or pee on something and like it would be amazing and it would be meaningful. And I think in the art world, because there are artists with a lot of status and a lot of money, and there's also, struggling artists or artists who aren't appreciated as much, there is that imbalance of appreciation of their work.
There's also the we talked about it in the podcast with me actually, where the idea that if something's commercially popular in an art, then it's considered trash and it's not viable because there's so much of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that too. It's like everyone has this like internal pressure that you have to do something that's going to be liked and but not by too many people, but just like liked by the right people. But it's not what should be driving you when you're creating things. Like, what makes your art unique is that you made it. It's your perspective. And yeah, like you said, some things, there's so much gatekeeping in the art world, and so it's so hard to like get noticed, but not necessarily because there's so many people, but because I would say it's mostly because the people who are like in power per se, they're very focused on like a very small group of people.
Yeah.
And like getting an MFA degree, it's expensive. Not everyone can afford it, and just that you got it does not make you necessarily a better artist than someone who's self-taught, you know? So there's also that little, it's like, it can be weird because, let's talk about a little bit of the art world in Poland. There's a lot of competitions and like open calls in Poland that are only open to students from Polish Academy of Arts. That you have to be either a student or a graduate. And I'm just like, what about all the other artists that are creating work here?
Yeah.
What about the people that can't afford? Well, that can't afford or don't see.
But you have to get in, and you have to spend money to take all the drawing lessons and everything, and like to create a portfolio in order to get in. So there's also like that kind of gatekeeping. So it's like, yeah, university's free, but you have to spend money to prepare yourself to get into it. So it's really weird, and like it just rubs me wrong. Like,
well,
Yeah.
I just think especially art shouldn't really have a price tag on it in terms of being able to learn how to do art, because there's so many self-taught artists. Like, I know so many incredibly talented self-taught artists who, or like even like graphic designers. Like, I know a lot of graphic designers decide not to go to uni because you can literally teach yourself how to do it like in a year, 2 years. Like, I feel like it's very much sold to you when you're at school, or it is over here anyway, like that uni is like the next step and it's the next thing you have to do, and you need a degree to get a job, and it's all this focus on like getting a job and the end result. But in terms of art, I don't think that the quality of artwork or the concepts behind it have anything to do with how you've been educated. I think education helps you grow as like a person, like you meet amazing people at uni, and I'm sure it does teach you, some valuable stuff, but I think it's not stuff that you can't learn without paying for it.
yeah, especially when it comes to like those technical skills. It's actually one of the reasons why I eventually decided going against going to grad school, because I was talking to my uncle who actually is an artist, and he was like telling me, just like, listen, you're gonna, in 2 years you're gonna be in the same space you are right now, so trying to get a visa to stay and not being able to because the stuff you do in school doesn't count towards your artist visa. And he was like, but also, if you're not trying to be a lawyer, engineer, a doctor, or try to have a career in academia, there's no reason why you should be getting a graduate degree, because you can learn all that stuff on your own, and like you have very solid basis of like design thinking and like all the design and art skills, and you know where to look for the information, and all of it is out there for you. It will require you to have dedication and spend time on it, but you would be doing that at school anyway. So why put yourself through it, and when you can work on your own stuff and learn the things you actually are interested in, instead of having to fulfill a curriculum.
And on that, it's time to leave the podcast listeners something to think about and start wrapping it up.
Right, so thank you so much for coming on today, Dominika. It was so interesting to listen to you, and I think honestly you are the coolest person I've ever spoken to before. You're so cool. Anyway, I'm not gonna get like super gushy. Thank you so much for listening. So where can people find you on social media and online, Dominika? How can we promote you?
You can find me on my Instagram Instagram, it's at Dominika Jezewska, which is, I know it's hard, but I will spell it out for you. So it's Dominika Jezewska. That's my Instagram tag. And my website is actually the same, just .com. So once you get there, you'll find it.
Do you have
And if you are having trouble spelling, her name will be in the title of the podcast, so that's not an excuse.
Do you have an Etsy shop or anything? Are you selling any of your work at the moment?
So I have a small print shop, but I'm thinking of totally redoing it. So I would say no, but it's coming. So
something to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, a little bit of self-promotion for us. You can find us at the women's_workshop, and you can find Immi at Immi Midi, which is IMMIMIDI. And you can also find me ellajasmine.samuel. Pretty sure that's what it is. Anyway, you can find us. And if you do want to get involved and come on the podcast, then feel free to contact me at the women's_workshop or Immi Midi. And we'll get back to you. So thank you again so much for coming on the podcast today. And thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you for listening.